everybody, and welcome back to David's Marvelous Pigments. I've got a really good piece here that I really enjoyed painting. We're continuing on our working our way through the Wildspire Spellblades set. We painted about, I think, a little more than half, maybe about half of the pieces in there, and we're going to keep working our way through that. This is the Witch Knight from that set, and I really enjoyed painting this one for a couple of reasons. This is one that I wish I had, a piece I wish I had years ago when I played one of my very first PCs in the Pathfinder rule set. So one of the things I want to kind of talk about today is some of the differences between mechanics and flavor between Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder. Pathfinder is really closely linked to the 3rd edition of Dungeons and Dragons. It came about when 3rd edition changed and kind of rolled over into 4th edition, and Pathfinder. The people who made Pathfinder preferred the 3rd edition rule set, and so they made a setting and kind of spun off some of the rules and made Pathfinder. And I really like the flavor, some of the not the mechanics of Pathfinder, but some of the more artistic flavor of what the path that Pathfinder took. Whereas some of that. The differences there, Dungeons and Dragons kind of leaned away from in later editions, like 5th edition. So I've realized over the past little while making some of these videos and talking about these pieces, I really enjoy the rules of 5th edition D&D, but some of the stylistic choices I prefer from Pathfinder. So just a little quirks about how I enjoy the play. And I'm going to talk about 2 of those differences in this video. First, as we're painting a witch, this Witch Knight, I want to talk a little bit about some of the stylistic differences between the 2 with witches and warlocks, as well as some of the mechanical differences. So in Dungeons and Dragons, we have a warlock, which has some sort of otherworldly patron that the individual has made some sort of pact with, has a contract with. That's how they get their power. Which, historically in the real world, that's what the term warlock means. I don't remember what language its origin is, but it basically means someone who's signed a pact or made a deal with the devil. The term witch comes from the term Wiccan, Wicca, but while that's where the term comes from, during the Salem witch trials in America, individuals that were tried as witches were tried basically for being people who have made some sort of pact with the devil to gain power. So basically they were being tried for being what historically the term warlock means. And so witches and warlocks sort of colloquially are very similar entities. And the roles of witches and warlocks in Pathfinder and D&D are very similar. The witch and the warlock are both entities that have made some sort of deal with a devil or demon or other entity in order to get their power. So some of that flavor, they're very similar. Some of the differences mechanically, in Dungeons and Dragons, a warlock only gets 2 spells at a time, 2 spell slots that it can use to cast its spells. After that has to take a short rest. They are more of a caster kind of character. They can wield a weapon depending on their subclass. Whereas in Pathfinder, the witch, their role, they fill a role very similar to a wizard. They're more of a full caster. They don't have armor. They have a familiar that acts very similar to a spellbook, And this, of course, is first edition Pathfinder. I'm not as familiar with second edition. I know there are some of those same similarities, but we have a little bit of a difference there between the flavor, the style of those two character classes. And mechanically, I like the role of the way the warlock works, but flavor-wise, they're very similar. Not a whole lot of difference. Both of them, made a pact with some sort of powerful entity. Maybe they don't fully understand the deal that they've made, but they're gaining their power from some sort of outside source. There's also, in both games, there's a race or species that is called a changeling. In Dungeons and Dragons, the changeling is like a shape-shifting fae. Can change its appearance to look like different things, hence the name changeling. In Pathfinder, changeling is very different. It is using the term changeling the way it was used in sort of the old myths of the British Isles. In the British Isle myths, a changeling is a individual who has been replaced or exchanged with some fey creature. The way Pathfinder uses changeling is through the use of the hags. A hag might lure some unsuspecting person to its lair, mate with them, kill that individual, and then 9 months later have a baby. The hag doesn't want to raise the baby on its own, so it will go and place that baby in the home of some farmer and his wife, usually taking their baby and exchanging them. And that exchange, the hag's baby that has been put in there, is called the changeling. And that's where, historically, in the British Isles, I think it's an Irish, in Irish tales mostly, I believe, might be Scottish, I'm not 100% sure there. But that's what a changeling was, a fey creature replacing that of a normal person. Now, in Pathfinder, the idea was that at some point in the changeling's life, the hag parent comes looking for them and tries to take them home to help that changeling in its process into becoming a full-fledged hag. In first edition, all changelings were female. In second edition, I believe they've kind of said that's not a restriction. I kind of liked that restriction just because of the way it played in with hags and how hags reproduce, that they're all female, and so I thought that was a really nice, flavorful thing there. But so the character I made, the Witch Hazel, who was a really fun character to play, she was a changeling, and I had a couple different versions of her because I used her twice. I played her once, and that campaign didn't go very far. So later I brought her back and played her again, and had her as different types of a child of 2 different types of hags, depending on which one it was. But in either case, she was raised by some farmers. One day, the hag mother came to collect her, and Hazel's family was dispatched, and she is running from her hag parent, and that's why she's out adventuring. Now Hazel, my character, she always had some sort of familiar with her, and I just really liked playing her because the witch's spells from Pathfinder was an interesting take, very similar to sort of wizard, but the witch in Pathfinder plays the same basic role of a wizard, but has some healing magic. So you could play a hedge witch, which was a healer of types, or you could play like a damaging caster throwing fireballs around. But I really enjoyed playing Hazel, and so when I found this piece, it was a fun opportunity to paint her, and here we go. I just really enjoyed that. I hope you guys enjoyed watching me paint that, and um, please go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.